prosperity. And we are so happy to have Robert Buttman joining us, along with some guests as well. My name is Sue Roskoff, and I am here with the World of Ability Podcast Network. And so happy to introduce the one who you can only win with Robert Buttman. So, Robert, I'm going to pass it over to you. Welcome.
Super. And first of all, I want to welcome our guests. And part of the reason why we chose to do this, first of all, I met Kurt a couple years ago and we started to get to know each other. And I've been living this very prosperous life. And unfortunately, there's a lot of people that are challenged, they're confused, whatever that might mean as it relates to whatever they're doing. And we are doing this where we're inviting guests, whoever wants to show up. It's the second and fourth Friday of every single month. And it's how we can help other people realize prosperity is just around the corners. Obviously, you've got to get out and do the right things in the right way, make a difference, stay focused on what you can do to make a difference. And so we want to invite other people, whatever prosperity means to them. I mean, I've got a variety of different things that I can take a look at of what has allowed me to create the prosperous life, starting with one person that can make a significant positive impact. I think about when my journey started in 1984, and I was looking to find a life partner. And I ended up meeting a lady, and we've been happily married for 41 years. And I know I could not have accomplished anything without her starting off. But the other part is the other partnerships, that I've developed, with the Roscoffs. I mean, I could go on and on, James Feldman, and the people here. So we're going to talk about what does prosperity mean? How are you making a difference in the world? Because obviously with everything that's happening in the world, it's up to us to make a difference where we can do that. So, being happily married for 41 years, and my wife has taught me well. So Allison, besides Sue, you're the other lady that's, the first time here with us. What would you like to say as far as what you're doing, how you can contribute, what you're contributing, anything that you want as it relates to being prosperous?
Could you
Do you want to introduce yourself and
Okay, so just to share a little bit about me, I was trying to get your last statement, however. Yeah, I did not hear your last statement very well. I think there was a glitch. Could you repeat what you? Yes.
Well, first of all, we can take it any way we want. Might as well introduce yourself to the other listeners. Number one, what does prosperity mean to yourself? What are you doing to help other people shift their consciousness? Because unfortunately, and one of my famous sayings is a confused mind's natural state is immobility. There's a lot of people that are based on everything going on in the world without going into that. They're not having the kind of impact. And I know that you're a lady that's focused on impact. So however you want to take that as far as what you're doing, what does prosperity mean? Start off from there and take it any direction you want, and then we'll go to Jeff.
Okay. So I want to say thank you.
Yeah.
Sorry about that. So I want to say thank you very much again for the opportunity to be here, Robert. And it's great to meet Jeff and this fabulous lady with us. It's a pleasure to be here. Just to share a little bit about me, my name is Allison Johnson. I am originally from Jamaica in the West Indies, and I am currently in the UAE. To share a little bit about me, I have been in business for a number of years, not just operating as a business owner, but I have had the opportunity to teach business as well. So to empower young minds, in the area of business, etc., and various other initiatives, job readiness, and there are so many other things that I could relate to, but I will just stick to the few. I'm also a licensed administrative consultant. My company is called IBIS Consultancy UAE, and I'm also the founder of Hummingbird Global Initiative. Now, with each of these, my aim is to make others' lives as effective as possible, as efficient and effective as possible. As it relates to prosperity, if I am to think about the summation of my experience, what prosperity means to me is when you are able to find yourself in that conscious state where you realize that, hey, prosperity is a circle that you, if you understand it well, you can actually be of not just benefit to others, but you can help to welcome prosperity. You can share prosperity. You not only receive prosperity and say, hey, I'm prosperous, but a conscious state of prosperity is when you are able to empower others and bring them up to a state of being prosperous as well. Now, for what I do in my companies, for example, in IBIS Consultancy, I have a Dishes on Intelligence framework. So I help to make the lives of others easier. So it's based around extensive research that has helped to shape how people structure their decisions in everyday life. So not just business, but in everyday life. And as it relates to what I do as founder of Hummingbird Global Initiative, Hummingbird Global LLC, I have recently started an initiative that is STEM Business Fellowship for Women, where I aim to empower women, especially worldwide, in the field of STEM so that they can actually have jobs within this area and be able to make valuable contributions. So that's it for me. I'm not going to overshare. That's it for me. But again, it comes back to being prosperous. You have to be able to not just empower yourself, but also empower others. For that is my personal view on what it truly means to be prosperous. Right? So back to you.
You know, I love what you had to say. I love your name, Hummingbird. I think there's something, if I'm not mistaken, the butterfly effect or something where by making a difference in the impact that has. In fact, one of the parables that I remember, listening to many times, and there's what they call a starfish thrower. And I'm not going to go into the whole story, but about this guy throwing a starfish in. Somebody says, you'll never make a difference as he throws the next one in. Said I made a difference that one. And so it's the impact that we can have based on connecting from human to human. And I mean, a 70-year friend of our family, Harvey Mackay, and I love his book, Dig Your Well Before You're Thirsty. The more that we can have that impact with one other person, and we can do that consistently on an ongoing basis. So great share. Jeff, would you like to add to it or, take it whatever direction as far as how it, the impact that you're doing, what prosperity means as it relates to you? And let people know
Sure.
more about who you are.
Yeah, it's been a minute since we've had a conversation, Robert. It's been all the way back in February. So was the last time you and I had a chat. So it's been a minute. It's been like a month and a half. So I am in Colorado Springs, Colorado. I just saw Sue yesterday. So this is crazy, like twice in 24 hours. This is great. It's just on couple podcasts of hers yesterday. So I love what you're talking about. That was really cool. You're doing a lot of cool stuff. Well done. And UAE, I have one other. I only know a couple other people in UAE, but what a cool place to live, man. That's awesome. So so well done. I don't even know what time it is there, but I'm sure you're probably up later than us. So, but this is great. I am in Colorado Springs, Colorado, and my wife and I do a lot of stuff. I host a TV show right now that I've had on the air for just shy of 3 years. About a week from now, it'll be 3 years that we've been on the air, and it's called Invisible Condition. And it's on every Tuesday and every Friday at noon Eastern for an hour. And that's kind of, I think that's I feel like what I've been told from people over the years is that has been impactful for the guests that have been on. That's been impactful. People hearing the story of why I started the show it can be impactful for people. So that show, we bring on people that are thriving despite some sort of invisible medical condition that you can't see from the outside, right? So there's just so many, right? There's like everything from, simple stuff like type 1 diabetes and fibromyalgia and endometriosis and, traumatic brain injuries. And then there gets into some of the dicier stuff like rare heart conditions, rare forms of cancer, schizophrenia, bipolar, dissociative identity disorder, all kinds of crazy stuff. So, but everybody has a story. And so I bring them on the show and I let them tell their story and I let them promote their business because that's the doing awesome part, and so we tell those stories and get the word out about what they're doing to be awesome. So that's getting ready to launch a second show in a couple of months, but that's been our bread and butter for the last 3 years, and it's been fun. So it's been pretty awesome. So thanks for having me here. This is great. This is awesome.
Thanks for both of you showing up because, part of the key and when you're talking about everybody's got a story, and one of what I see the problems in the world is most people look at differentiation of human beings rather than similarities. The point is we're all more similar than different. And
Oh, yeah.
if people looked at people that way, and it's all about the human, connection, the human relationship. And as we're looking at, for example, the entrepreneurial journey, because you happen to mention the journey. And, one of the things I learned early on in my journey is, there's many different ways, and that's what we started off, possibilities to prosperity. It's something I learned in Thailand, same, but different. But, as long as whatever your intention is, and you stay focused with some flexibility, because I remember in my journey originally, I turned to my wife as well, at the time she wasn't my wife, but we were walking and I said, there's nothing or nobody that's going to stop me from succeeding. I didn't know how, but we all go through a journey. So I love the fact of the journey. I love the fact that you focus more on the differentiation and you are more empathetic to people that were dealing with other things. Sue, would you like to, or Kurt, would you like to chime in as it relates to some of the things that we've been saying so far? Kurt? Do you want to chime in on some of the things we're
There we
talking
go.
about, or Sue?
We're sorry, just making sure we got sound correct here between us. So, because we're actually sitting next to each other and don't want to end up having a goofy sound issue. So, with all of the different ways that we can work together, I know, like with Jeff being with us the other night, that the whole aspect of community and what it takes to bring people together and all the possibilities that exist when we do actually do the things to work together and move forward. There are so many different ways to help one another out, and that is a massive piece of what we're all about is how can we make life better for everybody? How can we do things together and move things forward that way? And that's where we are. That's the playground we're in is how we can see the possibilities and be able to move forward with them. And so, Kurt, did you want to add anything?
Yeah, I guess what I'll share is today we were out scouting out a college, so this is kind of a time with our 17-year-old to go and get campus tours. And as part of the program, the dean of the university was there. And so talking to us, he talked about the question that kids get asked, what do you want to be when you grow up? And he was pointing out that he didn't find that to be the most effective question. And it was because of a point he had an alternative one to add in. And the question is more, what problem in the world would you like to solve? And then he demonstrated how everything that the University of Wisconsin-Eau Claire had to offer tied into that. He gave some examples of, whether it was environmental or technology, this world of AI with all the, ethics and stuff like that, So I guess that was an interesting proposition. And we unpacked that earlier today with John Petros Sr. with Revolutionize Your Marketing. And so every day it provides another opportunity to shape our perspective, kind of come into the moment. And from then on, kind of having a little different oomph and drive and thrust to what we do. It's all about energy and energetics. So, and earlier in the week and this last week has been about purpose. I was even on the Open Mind. They were talking about in terms of our Heavenly Father, and kind of looking at purpose, our purpose being His will and things like that. So I guess I put that back on the table to say in terms of, the problems in the world, a problem in the world that you're trying to solve. And then, this idea of how something like that can drive your purpose. What are we thinking?
Well, I'm going to hand it over to Allison in a second, but I want to first comment a little bit about what you were talking about, because I think it's really relevant to the things that we're talking about. I mean, when my life shifted, it was in the beginning stages, I was chasing money, but you talked about purpose. And I was at an event, and somebody asked the guy that was running the event, what's the meaning of life? And without hesitation, the guy said, to live a life of meaning. And that's when my whole purpose really changed. I started to take a look at, because, relatively, I'm well off financially, but it's like, really, who cares? We all have 2 B days, a birthday and a box day, and in between there's a dash. And it's like, what impact are we going to make in the short term, relatively speaking, that we're on this planet for? And you're talking about focus on solutions. And when I originally started back in 1984, and it was about 1990, I started my career in 1984, but I actually broke through from working a job in 1990, and I wanted to create my first corporation. And it is relevant to what you were talking about. And so I sent it into the corporation to see if I could get a corporation, and it was Solutionist. And I get a letter back from whoever handles it that said there's no such word. Well, at the time, I was unconsciously incompetent. I didn't know. I didn't understand that you don't have to have a real word to create your corporation. But in the meantime, that's here nor there. But again, it's how we shift one way or the other. And, it's getting in, every time I have a conversation, and I've alluded to this earlier, one of the guys one of my partners, and you met him, is James Feldman. And he said, I started off the conversation, I said, I'm an out of the box thinker. And he said, well, you got to get in the box with the person you're talking with. You want to understand what's going on in their world. And because unfortunately, most people are consistently thinking me, me, me. And if you flip the M upside down and start thinking we, and understand what's going on in the other person, and you can develop more meaningful relationships. Anyhow, I'm rambling, Allison. I'm going to turn it over, because since you've spoken, a lot of different things have been on the table. So whatever direction you want to take it, as you unmute yourself and share with us as it relates to what your thoughts are, or what anybody else has said in relationship to what we're talking about.
Okay, well, so far I appreciate everything that has been shared here, and it's really great to know that people are out there and they're putting focus on things that really, really matter, from everything that everyone has said so far, for Jeff, for Sue. And I especially have to note what Kurt mentioned here about the students, helping a student to think. Now that really stood out for me because it's coming from, my experience as a teacher. And why I appreciate this is that you just never know how much potential a student has, when you give them an opportunity to think differently. So that is something that really stood out for me. And you can never underestimate, I always say this, you never can underestimate the abilities of a student. If you ask, for example, a question that is just closed around, what you want to hear from them specifically, then that is how they think. So back to what Robert just mentioned about, sometimes going out of the box, so therein the question that Kurt mentioned, the person asking the student the question in another way that's how you extract, potential from students. And that's the approach that I hope as, individuals, we would try to work towards, not, in every respect, whether it's your community, your business, or whatever it is. And, try to see how best we can empower others. So I listened when Robert said, hey, financially, he has been successful, but none of that matters. And while I cannot say the same for myself, I know when I share that I'm in the UAE, a lot of persons say, man, I bet she's there in Dubai and she's making millions. But the truth is that I have had my personal struggles, and the companies that I mentioned here, one of them is a social enterprise. So basically, I am, empowering other people, but it's not where I can say that, hey, I am, making a whole lot of money, etc. I will not really delve into much now because, I want to give other persons opportunities to share. But bit by bit, I will share my story with you. And I do believe that this is a great place, that Robert has invited me because I see where empowering others makes a difference. It's not just when you have money, but also when you don't, you want to be that huge impact in the life of others. So thank you again.
Let me jump in before we turn it over to Jeff. It's prosperity isn't necessarily, I mean, money's just one piece of it. And it starts off with the two most powerful words, which is I am prosperous, knowing that you've got your wisdom to share, the essence of who you are, as you embody prosperity and are able to communicate that out authentically to other people consistently, it will, the other, I mean, prosperity comes in multiple different ways, and that's what is prosperity, possibilities of prosperity. There's an old saying, when the student is ready, teacher will appear. And that's where it's like one person can change your life. That's part of the reason when, Kurt and myself and Sue decided to do this, and we're doing it the second and fourth Friday. And we want to invite more people because the more the better, because it's shifting the consciousness to help people realize, because I talk to a lot of people, and you're talking about young students, but even people that have gotten thrown in or made the choice to be entrepreneurs, a lot of them are trying to still figure it out. So anyhow, Jeff, let's pass the ball to yourself, and then we'll go back to Sue and Kurt as far as whatever, or if they want to jump in, they can jump in also.
Jump in all you want. I'm just here to listen, man. I'm not sure what to say. So I don't know.
You can never you can never say the wrong thing, because speak from what your heart in relationship to anything that has been being said, because there's this is gonna appear in a variety of different platforms, and we want to make sure that people know where to find you so that,
Sure.
anyhow. Go
All
ahead,
right.
Jeff.
Well, yeah, I mean, this is all really cool. I think prosperity. Yeah, I feel like that is a very misunderstood word. So, I misunderstood it for decades. So I watched I always watched my parents, like you model your behavior around the people that you spend the most time around, right? And so when you're a kid and you're impressionable and when you're like younger than 7 or whatever that age is, that like you're just kind of soaking up the world, figuring it out. And then you start having your own opinions about things, a little bit later, right? And so I don't know. I watched them and I thought, well, man, they did pretty awesome. They did really, really well. They're doing great. I want to do what they're doing, but that was not for me. I was not cut out for what they were doing. Well, that's not specifically what they were doing. I mean, my dad was a business owner for decades before he retired, and so I really wanted to follow in his footsteps because he was wildly successful. It was awesome, awesome to watch, and awesome to look back on and go, wow, look at what wow, he really timed that perfect. And so I guess I watch what he's been able to accomplish, and what my grandparents, they were entrepreneurs as well, so I watched them, what they got to accomplish, and and not just in their business life, but in their personal life. Like my parents have been married for 57 years. My grandparents were married for 69 and 61 years or something. I mean, so there's all these things matter, all of it is matters in success. It's not just about I mean, let's be real. Money is not a terrible thing to have along with the success because it makes a lot of things simpler. Easier, simpler. Those are different words. Easy. It might not make it easy, might not make it easier, but it might make it simple in some ways. Uh, you know, but there is more to it than that. So it's nice that I was able to learn some of that growing up. But um, I don't know. I guess I haven't gotten to the point financially where I feel like, okay, I've arrived. Okay, here we are. But the impact, I don't know. I feel like I'm doing backwards because I've got the impact going, and the show that we have has been impacting. I mean, I don't know how many people, maybe millions. Who knows? Over the last 3 years, I just I just don't know where I'm just not sure where the financial end comes in, right? Where the financial prosperity like comes in, because I feel like that would be able to help us further it, right? So it's hard not to chase that. Am I wrong? Like it's hard not to, it's important, right? The financial part, it's got to be important.
It's
I mean,
important, but chase or attract it. Do you want it? I mean, I don't know how you can really chase it. I think you want to attract it. And
no,
maybe
yeah, no, chasing it'll just,
sometimes
you're
a
right.
small,
You're right. Yes, I'm sorry. You're
yeah,
absolutely right. Sorry.
it's not about right or wrong. Yeah, yeah, no problem. Kurt Sue, what do you want to add? Either one of you want
There
to
we
add
go.
something?
Sorry. Sure. So I think part of what kind of hit me too is that the comment about who you hang around with, that whole concept of who you hang around with makes a difference. And I'm thinking about students. I think about I work at a university actually, so I'm around students all the time, and it's a lot of fun to see. Especially, so two things I love. One of them is when you actually can see the aha moment, when that happens and all of a sudden that light bulb turns on and you can see things click. I love seeing that. I love those moments. And that's where being at a place like a university is fun to see that as people are figuring themselves out. They're at that age where they come in and not sure what's going to happen. And over the course of 4 years there, to really see how people grow and change is a lot of fun because people really are, in my opinion, they've got a lot of their core values coming in, but they truly come out of a changed person, right? After all the things they learn, all the interactions they have, all the growing they do. And so those aha moments are huge. And with that too, let's see, I have my second point and I just lost my point because I was so distracted by those fun aha moments. Actually, Kurt, why don't you go ahead and then I'll come back.
All right, so it's time for Kurtism, something most all of you haven't experienced. So here we go, the Kurtism. I'm going to take the word prosperous, and I'm going to throw prosperous out there as, let's take from that word prosperous and let's take away from it pros for us. Now, where am I going with this? I want to do a shout out to one of our network hosts of a different show. There's a show we do on our network called The World of Pets, and it's by Debbie Hayes out of Arizona. And Debbie invites Sue and I and others onto a motivation call that takes place on weekday mornings. And one of the calls this week really struck me. The leader there said, you know, it's really powerful when you have your purpose. And I'm going to, this is not the words of this call, but it gets me thinking of the word fulfill. So think of the word fulfill, you know, fill up. So I look at 6 pockets in life. I look at our faith, energetic life. I look at our outward and recipient role, that mutual aid, where we serve each other, you know, that service part of life. Education, you know, where we're a learner and a teacher. And in civics, government, agency, being a citizen of the world or any locality, whatever it may be. And then in the business world, the economic sector, you know, what value we deliver there and what we're receiving. And then all the fun things we do, all this word of prosperity and, you know, success and all the things. You know, I think we all agree that no matter what's going on in our life, we appreciate being entertained and getting into sports and rec, hobbies, pastime, leisure activity, travels, arts and entertainment, all these things. So these 6 pockets really get me thinking about, as a person, what are we doing to be a part of the greater good? And as we walk into a room, how we fill the room, what we have to offer, and how we're clear with others, because everybody wants to help us too, right? You know, so how are people seeing, you know, how is Allison seeing that she can help me? How is Jeff seeing, you know, Robert found a way that he could help Kurt Roskoff. That's why Robert's here. Robert's here because he felt he could help this guy right here, you know, and then Sue comes along for the ride, and Robert's a gentleman. He sees like, wow, if I can help a couple and a family, you know, I got my wife, daughter, and dog, you know, so Robert's helping a household here. So, but back to this motivation call, this leader is suggesting to all of us, and it really resonated with me. She's like, when you can, you know, kind of have this way with people, if you can kind of be there and be present for people, and if you can come with your goals and your dreams, and again, how I would say how we're fulfilled, you know, and then again, how we're ready to allow them into our life and to play a role in our life, people lean on that. And kind of like that old song, lean on me when you need a friend, right? Lean on me. You know, so this is a natural thing in life. So we can play that role for people, that while they're kind of having whatever's going on with them, we could be an uplift, right? We can offer that energy, that positivity, that resonance, that aha moment, kind of like what this leader did for me. I'm just on another one of these motivational calls, and this leader said that and was like, bing, that resonated with Kurt Roskoff. Way to go, leader. That, you know, there were 5 calls this past week, and that one stuck out, you know, with me. So to always be on the ready for that, and the capacity to be able to deliver and receive, to me, is an element of prosperity. Because we hear the stories all around the world throughout human history where people piled up the money, but it wasn't seeming to be a story of prosperity because they had the money stacked up, but everything else was haywire. So I put that back on the table. What are we thinking? Is that balance all a part of prosperity?
to see if Sue remembered her other point that she was going to talk about.
The irony in that is I'm going to blame my tired brain on forgetting the the ironic part here of the part of the purpose at college and going to college, learning how to think. You're not just memorizing and regurgitating. We often are talking to our science students about you need to learn how to think and actually use what you got here to think about it and noodle on it. You got to think about these things and come to an understanding, not just, oh, they told me this is the answer, this is the answer. It's like, no, you got to back up and actually think about it. So that is a big piece, is learning how to do that, because I really think that coming out of the public school system, that so much of it is you're being taught how to take a test, how to do well on that test. You're taught how to regurgitate all these facts that you memorized, but that doesn't necessarily mean you learned how to think about it in a holistic kind of a way, and to really be able to nail it in a different way. That whole thinking outside the box. You got to be in the box and understand what the box is all about, but then step out so that you can actually make a difference with what you just learned.
And bring James Feldman in the picture, and you're thinking inside the box, right, Robert?
Well, so it's amazing that you said all that, because when I went through my formal educational process, I did because my mom was very controlling, narcissistic, whatever, and I had no other choice. And in fact, going back to what Jeff was talking about, when I found the lady, well, let me back up. My dad, he sort of like grew up in this family business. His dad died at a young age. His mother was very controlling. And so when I met the lady that I ended up marrying, it was totally opposite, because I wanted, somebody that was more empathetic, more really heartfelt, because however we go through our journeys, wherever we decide to make the choices we make. In fact, one of the things that you were talking about, Sue, about the people you hang around with, that was one of the key things with my wife. She wanted to know who my son was going to hang around with, so we built a basketball court and we created a playground in our backyard so that we knew who they hung around with. But whatever our journey is, and part of what Kurt talked about, why I saw us wanting to create this is we wanted to create brilliant people like the people that are joining us, so that we could digitize our messaging and then bring it to a greater audience, so that we can make that shift and help people realize the things that they need to do or should do, not necessarily need to, but or that they could do, that would have that kind of impact in changing, whatever it is, the purpose, the way they think, from people that are, very sharp and wanting to make a difference. And that's really where it starts. People coming together with the intention and the vision of wanting to make that difference and being able to voice freely. In fact, I was on MSN earlier tonight. I was taking a look at, and they're saying more and more is going away from the mainstream media and going into podcasts. And it's, bringing quality people that that we've attracted and will continue to attract, and then being able to bring that message to a greater audience. So anyhow, that's my vision as far as where we are. This is our third, the third session that we've done together, if I'm not mistaken. But that's my vision of it, is people showing up consistently, on Fridays, the 2 Fridays that we do it, we'll attract more people. We will digitize our messaging because we're attracting quality people. And ultimately, there'll be a way that people can get back to Allison, Jeff, Kurt, Sue, myself, and, wherever from there. So whoever else would like to share whatever they want to share in relationship to the things that we're talking about, or that they want to talk about, it doesn't matter. you can go off into whatever tangent you want to talk about. Nobody's grabbing the mic.
Yeah, actually, Jeff, do you want to go ahead? You unmuted there. I didn't know if you had a thought on top of your mind.
No, I'm just listening, man. This is not a tip. This is not a call. This is not the type of call I'm usually on. So I'm just I'm just soaking it up, man. I'm just yeah, calls like this. I'm a kind of a movie junkie, so I'm gonna relate it to movies here, how I'm feeling right now. I kind of feel like everybody here is watching a movie at the theater and they're enjoying it, they're loving it. And somebody told me the wrong time and I came in a half hour later. I don't know what the heck's going on. So I'm looking around waiting for somebody else to going, okay, this is cool, but I'm not really sure what to say. So so this is good. I mean, it's all good. I'm just not sure exactly what to say because I think everybody except for Allison here has heard my story a little bit, so they know where I'm coming from. So they know, or well, maybe you haven't, Robert. I don't know. I don't think we got too far. We didn't have too long of a call when we had our call, so maybe didn't get into that. So yeah, I'm just not 100% sure what. So
Well, go ahead. I mean, we really didn't that much, and Allison hasn't, because normally the first time I have a conversation with somebody, I'm focused, like I did with Allison, sharing insights and perspectives that are going to help them because, so no, we didn't get in much in your story. I knew that your initial podcast, I know that you're shifting to a different level of a podcast. So go ahead, tell us the story so that remember that this event's got a life after this event
right,
because it's
that's
being
true.
recorded and streamed.
No, that's great. That's great. No, and like I said, I'm kind of just here to learn. This is cool. I don't usually come to calls like this, so this is great. I'm usually the networking guy, on the go all the time. So this is cool. So this is nice. And I've gone to some of the ones that you recommended I go to and check them out. So thank you for that. There's been some good stuff. There's been some stuff I may not return to, but it's good. Variety is good, right? So yeah, so I started this show here 3 years ago because of my personal story, which starts at 2 weeks old with emergency brain surgery. So I was born with a condition that requires brain surgery every once in a while. So at 2 weeks old, my parents brought me to the doctor for the checkup for, okay, let's do it. Got our new little baby. Let's do the 2 week checkup. And they found a blockage in my brain, which is very the condition that they diagnosed me with is called hydrocephalus. It's very common, hugely, ridiculously common. Hundreds of thousands of babies born with it every single year. So they said, okay, brain surgery. That's the treatment is brain surgery. So emergency brain surgery at 2 weeks old, where they drilled a hole in my skull back here and installed a shunt, which is and then sent me home. And then that shunt malfunctioned at 6 months. I had to have another brain surgery to replace it. And that shunt malfunctioned at 18 years old. I had to have another brain surgery to replace it. I've had 4 of those brain surgeries in the last 12 years to replace shunts that have malfunctioned. It can be a continuous thing throughout your life with this crazy condition called hydrocephalus. So, and I've had about 8 other surgeries to, treat all kinds of other side effects like eye surgeries and abdominal surgeries. And so all I'm saying is I'm basically held together with scar tissue, and I can relate to a lot of people out there that have been through conditions that nobody else can see on the outside. Because to talk to me or look at me or watch me walk down the street, unless I told you about this, nobody would know any of it's going on. And so that was the inspiration behind the show, because those stories need to get out. My story, I've told my story lots, on stages, on shows, on TV, on podcasts, on whatever. Because because the one thing that I'll say is my parents treated this very, very differently than they could have. They could have treated me as a very sick kid and sheltered me, but they didn't. They said, "You're normal. Get out there and do something," you know? And so I did. So that's what I'm doing. And so that's kind of a abbreviated backstory of why we created that show. And it's because I feel like God has kind of set me aside. I could have had all kinds of crazy side effects growing up. I could have ended up with a lot more surgeries, but I think he knew that I had important things to do later. And so he set me aside and gave me those surgeries to help me learn about what to do later, to help others. And so that's what I'm doing. That's what I'm doing. I'm doing what I can to get the word out about this crazy condition called hydrocephalus, and helping other people share their stories about what they're living with. And one other thing I'd be remiss, I don't ask. If you don't ask, the answer is always no, right? I just found out, just like yesterday, that the National Hydrocephalus Association, which is a national organization that fundraises for, millions every year for research and development for better medical devices, better research on how to, make the lives of people with hydrocephalus better, all kinds of cool stuff. They're having their national conference in June, I want to say, June or July. I think it might be July. Danny Bonaducci is there. You guys remember Danny, right? From the Partridge Family? Right. He was diagnosed with hydrocephalus about a year and a half ago in his 60s. You can get it anytime, if you have a blockage in the brain, that can create hydrocephalus. He is their keynote speaker. I've been reaching out to him for a year, reaching out everywhere I could to get in touch with that guy and could never get a hold of him. So I've reached out to the Hydrocephalus Association, which I've actually had on my show twice now, over the last 3 years. I'm really hoping they can connect me with him so that I can, I don't know, help him in some way, get him some resources from our nonprofit, or just have a conversation on our show to promote his speaking gig at the conference. I don't know. We'll see where it goes, if it goes anywhere. But I just thought I'd throw that out there if anybody has any connections out there for that kind of thing. So might be fun.
Who might have a connection, and Kurt knows, and I just had a conversation with him yesterday, is Eric Zuley from Easy Way. He seems to be in a lot of that. I'm not sure. I can reach out to him, but I've got a similar kind of a situation, but it's totally different because I've got an extremely famous cousin, and I continually throw that out, but nobody's been able to put me in touch with him. His mother was at my wedding, but it's not a big deal. It's like, as you said, if you don't ASK, you'll never GET.
That's right.
But let me see. So I appreciate anyhow. Allison, you've been quiet. Is there anything that you want to contribute, or I'll see what I can do to my connections, one way or the other.
Yeah, that'd be awesome.
Allison, anything? Otherwise, yeah, I'll see what I can do. Kurt mentioned James Feldman. He seems with AI can almost track down anything one way or the other. So what I can do.
Right. Yeah. That's awesome. Well, and I feel like I know you and I have had a conversation, and you were like, handing out connections left and right to different networking groups and different things for me to check out, which I very much appreciate, and I have definitely checked out a lot of those. And so I don't know, whenever you want to jump back on the calendar, it'd be fun to chat again, and see what I can see what else we can do together, or see what I can do for you. So, the invitation is open to.
Well, you've got my calendar link. I was just saying, you've got my calendar link. Just jump at my calendar. It's just calendly.com/my last name, Butwin.
Calendly.com. Okay. Yeah. Cool.
/Butwin. Remember, with Robert, you do nothing but Win.
Nice. Perfect. Love that.
Yeah. Allison, anything else? Otherwise, I know Kurt's always got something we can wrap it up or Sue. We've got no set time as far as how long we have to go or anything else like that. Otherwise, we will
Nothing
be
for me.
back the second. Go
Sorry.
ahead. Go ahead.
No, I was
No, go
just
ahead,
saying,
Allison.
there's nothing more for me still, but I am happy to be able to hear, these amazing stories. And I do believe I look forward to hearing more. Um, I have definitely been inspired so far. So I just want to say that, yes, it's awesome to, see purpose being fulfilled, and especially when you can identify with something and then you're using it to, be better or do better for others. I think it's amazing. So I do look forward. I look forward. That's it.
Super.
Back to you, Robert.
Kurt, do you want to wrap it up, Kurt or Sue?
Well, what I want to do, Robert, is we had coming onto our screen here our podcast engineer, our scheduler, our virtual assistant, Emily Golmer. She's on here proudly representing a role in the America's Council for Spirit of the Game Foundation, who is sponsoring the use of their, paid Zoom account here. So thank you, Spirit of the Game Foundation. Check in for Emily Gomer. Emily, are you out there? Did you want to say hi to the group and to our audience?
Hi, everybody. Again, the people I know, and then Allison, who I don't know. So, trying to say hi.
Very good. Thank you, Emily. So, yeah, and we want to have a shout out to our friend Mark Balin on the Mark TV. Wow, he is lighting the TV industry out there with a wildfire and, spreading the heart he has out there like wildflowers. And so he's the instigator of all this. He had a conversation with Robert here, and the two of them got talking about me and all the podcasting and how I love marketing through technology and events. And so Robert got thinking about how he knows me. And so we were kind of like the three amigos, and, Mark instigated it, and Robert with his servant leadership. Thank you, Robert, for everything you're doing with this show, coming in here, letting us have a little bit of an AMA, Ask Me Anything format. So what a treasure to be able to lean on each other with our lifelong experiences, lived experiences, our wisdom, and, kind of how we went through the cycles, went around the block a few times, that type of thing. So we bring it all here, folks. We do a lot of things all week long and on the weekends. And this is what we came up with, coming out here live at 5 Pacific time, to light up the, live streaming, the YouTube live, and create this work product out there, as Robert said, for Easy Way Networks, Easy Way TV, and On the Mark TV, and all of our global streaming television networks, and here at the World of Ability Podcast Network. So, and right here with the boss of it all, Sue Roskoff. So we got the full team here, and thanks for our guests, Jeff Pearson and Allison A. Johnson. Nice to meet you, Allison. And Allison, you are welcome to our shows. Like I say, we do Ability MK now on Wednesdays, and the TDC Today show right after that. And then Saturdays, like tomorrow, we do the World of Ability podcast. That is 11 a.m. to 1 p.m. Pacific time every Saturday. And the host of that one is right here in this show, Sue Roskoff, my wife. She hosts that show too. So, yeah, the link for that one, Allison, and everybody here is the same link we got onto this one. Everybody out there can come on in and join the World of Ability in our podcast as scheduled with meeting ID 404-058-6152. Again, thank you, Spirit of the Game Foundation. So with that, that's a wrap, folks. Come back here on the second Friday of April. We'll be right back here, like I say, live at 5 Pacific time. We'll see you next time. I'm Kurt Roskoff, and we're out of here. Take care.
Thank you. It's been a pleasure. And we'll be, as you said, back in second Friday of the month, and hopefully you'll be back with us.
Right on.
Right?